On a spiritual level, I think we voluntarily incarnate into our current human form for two reasons. One is to experience things that allow our soul to evolve and grow. Good things, bad things, extraordinary things, things that can only be experienced through the limitations of a five sense physical body. But even more so, in my opinion, we choose to incarnate at the time that we do and in the form that we do to contribute what we uniquely can do to make other people's lives better, to help lift them up, and to save this incredible place called Earth, which is this extraordinary home that we are in danger of losing.
It's so true. And thank you for that, because it's a calling that once you learn a little bit, you will instantly become part of the solution.
The amazing environmental hero, Sylvia Earle, says, "You can't care until you know."
Hi, and welcome to the latest edition of Code Green, Conversations for a Future We Want and Our Kids Deserve. I am pleased to introduce you to a friend of mine. We know each other through media circles, through green circles. His name, in fact, is Greene, Richard Greene. He is a dedicated communicator, I would say, on politics, progressive politics. We both had a show on Air America many moons ago. Richard's was about Hollywood, but not the light stuff, the where Hollywood intersects with issues and politics. And mine, of course, was on green issues, Eco Talk. And since then, we run into each other at a lot of climate events, and that is a focus of his, but broader. He can tell you about that. But I wanted to have Richard come on to talk about the now daily assaults on our sensibilities, our sanity, coming from this administration. I was on your podcast, Richard, during right before the election last October, and we were talking about Project 25, and the one that Trump knew nothing about. And I went through step by step all the rollbacks that they would do if Project 25 went into effect. And of course, not only did it, they did not waste any time. And I think they've gone beyond that at this point. You've got something you're calling Project 26. We're going to hear about that. What can we do to fight this pathology? And it's only been 8 months. It's unthinkable. I mean, a scorched earth policy, right? You also organized a TED Talk recently, Santa Monica. You had some big name actors and celebrities talking about serious issues. And you are also a civics expert. You call yourself a civics professor. You've got a law degree. So you're a lot of things, but let's talk about how you're feeling and what you're thinking in this very hot moment.
It's easy to have and do a lot of things when you're so old. So
Wait a minute, wait a minute, wait. No, passion keeps us young. Purpose keeps us energized.
exactly. And I believe that the most important thing that we can do as we get older is to stay active. And that the most important thing that we can do to stay active is to find our passion and to activate that into the world.
Mhm.
And I think passion and purpose is one of the five things that actually does add the most to longevity. So we can talk about that. But I am very passionate about saving our environment, fighting the dictatorship, the fascist regime, and it is that. And I'm happy to debate that with anyone who said, "Oh, no, you're exaggerating." I'm not
Well,
exaggerating.
we don't have to debate here. It's now the Department of Defense is now the Department of War. To reinforce, Hegseth said, our warrior ethics.
Well, that's. I remember a time I actually spoke to Walter Cronkite when he and Dennis Kucinich and Marianne Williamson were pushing at this really crazy idea. Let's actually have a Department of Peace.
I love that.
So Walter is gone, sadly, an extraordinary man.
Agreed.
And that idea of peace seems to have been absolutely paved over, just like Donald Trump paved over Jackie Kennedy's Rose Garden. But here's the message that to start off at the top, this is a hopeful, we can do something about this message. And the reason I say that is because I know civics. So as you mentioned, I'm a lawyer. I was a fellow for the Constitutional Rights Foundation when I was at USC Law School. And I've spent over half a century now, almost half a century, teaching civics, because civics is our power. Understanding how the game works is critical for us to win the game. And we're not winning the game because we don't understand civics. The most important thing about civics in a democracy, as long as we have it, is to vote, right? Is to vote. So we can talk about that in some granular detail, but I want to give the big picture first of all. And that is that I want you to know that virtually everything that Donald Trump and Stephen Miller and this White House and this Republican Congress and this Supreme Court even are doing and have been doing can be undone. We can undo virtually all of this. We can even replant Jackie Kennedy's Rose Garden. We can undo virtually all of the stink, the taint, the monstrous devastation of this most deranged, damaged man in American history.
I would agree, but some things like the climate, they're spewing more emissions, the parts per million of greenhouse gases going up there. That's not reversible. So I like your hopeful message, and it's true. And that's one area that is so urgent, right?
So it's not reversible. But as you know, every day that we don't do good things, we're getting worse, right? So can we undo the carbon that's going to be spewed up into the air in the next months and years because we're disincentivizing electric cars and renewable energy, and we're opening up oil drilling and coal mines and all of that? Can we undo that damage? No, but we can stop it. And then we can reverse course in terms of putting massive regulation on coal and oil industries and methane production and all of that. We can do that. And we can even change the Supreme Court as much as we want, which is something most people have no idea about. It's just part of civics. If we do the one thing I mentioned, which is we vote, and that means starting this November 4th in California, where we have Proposition 50, which is a special election. If we lose Proposition 50, it will take us 8 Congress people to take back control of the House of Representatives, which is critical for us to stop any more bad things happening to the environment going through Congress. Because virtually everything that Trump wants to do that does require congressional action has to be approved by the House and the Senate. So if we even just have the House, we can stop most things. So we've got to vote on November 4 in 2025. We have to vote like we've never voted before because they will cheat in November of 2026. And we need to vote like crazy in November of 2028 if, in fact, there will be an election. So that's the answer. And I can explain a little more about how votes actually do matter. I hear so much, oh, my vote doesn't count. Both parties are the same.
Are people still saying that? Yeah, like Trump is the same as what? We've never seen this before.
Well, literally, I actually saw a TikTok of this lovely young woman, very passionate, saying, you know why, Democrats, you know why we're not voting for you anymore? Because of Gaza. We don't trust your values and your ethics and your morals, so we're not going to vote for you. So I sent her a DM and I said, listen, I appreciate your passion. Without going into the issue, I teach civics, and I just want you to know, first of all, if you really do care about the Palestinians, there is a massive difference between Democrats and Republicans on that issue, right? May not be big enough for you, but there is a massive difference. Plus, virtually everything that you as a progressive believe in can only happen if young people your age who are watching your TikToks actually register and vote in every election for Democrats. No political party is perfect. No politician is perfect. But the difference between these two parties is unbelievable. And I want to encourage people to go. The single most important thing, I think I've written about this in my Substack, just go Richard Greene, the Civics Dean Substack. And I also call it Project 2025, 2026. We'll talk about that. I wrote an article called The 90.
I want to hear what she said, her response.
The 98.96% difference between Republicans and Democrats. I took 20 issues, went to the congressional record, went through the voting records for Republicans and Democrats on 20 key issues. And there is a 98.96% difference on how Republicans and Democrats vote on these important issues. So don't give me the bullshit. Sorry, that both parties are the same. So back to the TikToker. She DM'd me back with her kind of argument, but in a gentle way. It's like, well, here's what I think. And so I sent her my article and I explained to her, we got a little deeper into the issue. And then she writes back and she goes, I'd love to have you on my podcast, which is great. So she's based in New York. So I'll be in New York during Climate Week. And so I'll be on her podcast. And then the next day, I see a video from her saying, well, I've been very tough on the Democrats and I've gotten some feedback that in some cases, the lesser of two evils is actually still important. And so I do think that we may want to rethink our not supporting the Democratic Party. So, and this is a young influencer. And so I felt really good because we have to understand there is a difference between the parties on environmental issues and massive difference. I mean, couldn't be more massive, right? On that issue and democracy and so many other issues. And the only way to deal with this is to get off our high horse about wanting the perfect candidate and the perfect party and figure out what is important to us and who's going to make that happen. And in 99.9% of the cases, it's only going to be Democrats.
I'm sure you're familiar with the Environmental Voter Project, Nathaniel Stinnett and his statistics, finding that so many environmentalists don't vote, which
is shocking and criminal.
Disturbing and unacceptable.
They don't understand, Betsy. They don't understand what we just talked about.
And that's because, in large part, people who watch my interviews know what I'm going to say. Corporate media has done a lousy job of connecting the dots and telling the truth about our planetary pickle and has not told the public what's actually going on, which is the only way half the country could vote for a dinosaur. And now Trump has a dinosaur running the Department of Energy. Funny and not so funny, right? And we've already seen Trump 1 pulled us out of Paris early on, and then Trump 2 pulled us out of Paris, which does absolutely nothing except slow progress. It's like they're just sticking it to the libs and paying back their fossil fuel friends who gave him a lot of money, to do their bidding. And the problem is they're not even pretending to care about the environment. It's like everything else. It's just bulldozing, democracy, decency, climate. I mean, for those who don't know, literally every day there's an insane assault on what's going on. The climate bill, which was so needed and hard fought, $376 billion, that Biden got passed. Somehow they're clawing back all that as much as they can. They're trying to take back the EVs that the Postal Service and the chargers that were put in, just beginning to really expand this. No, they don't want EVs, even though there's children breathing exhaust from mail trucks. The mail truck drivers, I'm sure, like cleaner, they're stopping and starting. It's a perfect vehicle to be electric. And these Republicans claim to care about waste and Doge. It's going to cost so much money to roll it back. To what? Oil and gas for and this is for the next 20, 25 years. They don't replace these vehicles every year. That is insane. Same with killing wind projects, offshore wind projects, try to kill them off all the ports. Why? They say because of national security. This reversing something that was so needed and is too little too late as it is insane first and foremost. Spending more money to reverse it is the height of hypocrisy.
Right. No, you and I were talking about the windmill project that's almost done. And people are noticing that their electric bills are going up. And that is because with the AI and the data centers, demand is rapidly increasing and we need everything. So if it's like, yes, we want to make America energy independent. And if you really believe that oil and coal and natural gas is important, I don't agree with you. But why aren't we doing everything then? Why not wind and solar and geothermal and everything else? So
China and other countries are beating our butt on that. And since when? I thought we were supposed to be about competitiveness and ingenuity, American greatness, not so much.
For example, you mentioned about EVs. I have an electric car I know you've had one for a long time
Come on,
too.
I've had five. We,
Yeah.
we lease them. We don't have five in our driveway because the technology keeps improving, but we turned in our Teslas.
So I still have mine. Don't hate me. But I have I have a sticker on the back that says "Proud Democrat," so people don't key my car,
All that when we were at
which
the
is
whole
another way of saying "F you" to Elon. But for example, when I bought my Tesla in 2023, I was able to benefit from the Democrats' plan to incentivize the purchasing of American-made electric cars. I got a $7,500 tax credit, which is really a wonderful thing. That's a lot of money to
they
not
took
have to
back
pay
all the
taxes.
credits for renewable energy projects, including
Right. They
EVs.
took everything back. So here's the civics point. So we had the Inflation Reduction Act that Joe Biden got passed, which included so many wonderful environmental things, including these electric car incentives and tax credits, right? So the next administration, Trump, comes in, they have a majority in the House and the Senate, and they gut it. They override virtually everything in Biden's bill that they didn't want. People have this perception that if Congress passes something and it goes into law, that's it, it's done. No, look at Roe v. Wade. We thought that was safe. That's not even safe, even after almost 50 years of judicial precedent.
There's so many examples of things that we took for granted, right? And that's what's at stake, democracy itself. And we cannot reverse and address our very urgent environmental problems. And it's not just climate. Oceans are warming and on acid and plastic is choking sea
Oh
life.
my God.
And
I mean,
microplastics are in our bodies. There's so much. And people were already overwhelmed and rolling it back. I don't know if you have any friends, but I've met a couple of
no, I
activists
have no
just
friends.
giving up. No, no.
I have no friends. I've
Friends,
pissed everybody off.
oh, you didn't let me finish. Know people who are activists who are really thinking about giving up because it's just so disheartening.
Can't give up. Can't
I,
give up.
I
Let me
know.
just say one thing. So I'm deeply disappointed in someone who has been a friend for many years, not a close friend, but a friend. And that's Bobby Kennedy.
Oh, yeah.
Could ban environmental pollutants. He could ban glyphosate. He could regulate microplastics,
The old Bobby Kennedy. Something happened to him like something happened to Elon Musk.
the Trump
Right?
virus. You spend enough time in Donald Trump's energy orbit, you get infected. It's worse than COVID. And I'm talking seriously. I spoke to Bandy Lee, the psychiatrist that wrote most about Donald Trump, a Yale psychiatry professor, and she literally said that when someone in a family unit or any organization is that deranged, that it does in fact infect and affect everyone around it. And that's what's happening, I think, with Bobby, with Elon, with others. Okay. Well, one quick thing on microplastics, please don't ever buy or even wear, especially for sports when you're sweating, anything that's made with plastic. So
And that's
Lululemon,
more than people think. People don't realize in leggings, the workout clothes, it's everywhere.
but two things. One is you're sweating, you're playing tennis, you're doing yoga, whatever, you're wearing these plastic clothes. You're going to get that plastic into your bloodstream as you sweat. So that's bad. But guess what? And I just learned this. When you wash it, when you wash plastic
Yes.
clothing,
Yeah.
polyester, nylon, all of that,
To the
the
water system.
microscopic, billions of microscopic particles that cannot be filtered out by municipal water filters that go into our water that we are drinking, that's going into fish that we are eating, and it bioaccumulates massively. So I'm very concerned about because that is hormone disrupting and neurologically
Babies are being
really
born with
problematic.
microplastics. My granddaughter, almost two, I hate to think what's in her system because my daughter carried her, of course, and breastfed her. And it's just, it's beyond, right? So you mentioned microplastic. That's not the primary focus, but I just learned something which I didn't even think about. I know about the laundry, and I have interviewed somebody who actually invented something that can capture that plastic in your washer and dryer before it goes into the water system. I'll get her name, and
Wow.
we need to partner with him, right? But I just saw an ad popped up on Facebook. Everything I do is almost everything is green. There's a new dishwasher tablet that is not encased in plastic, and I didn't even think about that. Even if it's a greener version of dishwasher, they're all in those plastic tabs. And we happen to be renting a home where there's two dishwashers, whether we need them or not, and they only take taps. So you don't, it's not like you can use liquid. Some of them, I guess. And so everybody should now know about that because every time we wash our dishes, think about it, and all that plastic is melting into our dishes, the water system. My husband won't let me put anything that we might still have that's plastic in the dishwasher. I put that in the second one. Anyway.
Also, tea bags, for example.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Tea bag.
Green tea, it's
Don't
good for
ever
us,
use
except
tea
when it's
bags because they're made of plastic and you're putting boiling hot water and that plastic goes immediately into this yummy, delicious, healthy tea.
all
Anyway,
of us.
the
We thought we were getting
bottom
healthier
line is
by drinking more green tea or any tea and maybe less coffee, maybe not. You know, I let it soak too long. I heat it up again in the microwave because I get busy. Hey,
microwave. Don't use microwave. Oh my God. This show could go on for 5 hours about stuff like that. But we have environmental issues that we need a secretary of HHS. We need a president.
a real one.
We need media to properly educate us. And I get a lot of my information, quite honestly, even though I'm a boomer, from TikTok and Instagram videos, because there are independent voices that are so smart that have really developed an expertise on things. And we're just not getting it in the mainstream news. And we don't have a government that really cares about protecting us, sadly.
Well, the opposite.
But we can vote. But we can vote. We can vote. Ask the difficult questions for the people. But the bottom line is, honestly, if you don't want to spend a lot of time studying politics or getting ready to vote, just vote for Democrats. I'm sorry. You can say I'm being naive, but I'm not. I've been studying this my whole life.
I can vouch for that. He is obsessed in the way I'm obsessed in a good way about
people. I literally had a very dear friend who everyone knows, very famous guy, who texts me and he goes, "Ricky, I can't believe you're still a Democrat." He goes, "Why aren't you an independent?" And I responded, I said, "Listen, even if I change my voter registration to independent to make you happy," which I'm not going to do, I would never vote for a Republican. They do not share the environmental, women's reproductive health, equal rights, gun safety. They don't share any of the values or policies that I care about. In fact, someone wanted to hire me to be a public speaking coach for a very famous person who's going to be running for president as a Republican in 2028. And I said, I can't do it.
No.
I don't care how much money. I don't care how much money you offer me. I can't do it.
Good. And I would expect that and hope that from you. I now call them, and every day they prove it more, the pro-death party. Forget pro-life. Why do I say that? They will not act on guns and they will not ban assault weapons. We have more than one mass killing in this country a day. They certainly will not act on climate except to roll everything back. That's killing people, and it will way more than COVID. And it's now COVID. Yeah. No vaccines. So COVID, guns, climate. They're pro-death. They're not, they're only, I say they have a fetish for fetuses and then it ends. They're concerned for life.
So, for example, on guns, right? 93% of the country would like to have increased background checks so that people who shouldn't have guns are not allowed to or able to get guns, right? All we need is a few more votes in the House and in the Senate and a president who's willing to sign it. Let me tell you how close we are to accomplishing that and also passing a bill that would take away the immunity that gun manufacturers have for liability for improper use of guns.
And
right?
Trump's trying to do the
PLACA.
same thing for oil companies. They're trying to
Exactly. Again, Republicans support big corporations, whether it's for guns or fossil fuels or whatever. We can get rid of it. So I know we're getting close to the end. I just want to give you a hack to understand exactly in a very mathematical way why your voting counts. Okay, right now, there are 215 Democrats in the House of Representatives. There are 220 Republicans. The magic number to get bills passed in the House of Representatives is what, Betsy?
Well,
I'll tell you. No one knows because we don't teach this yet. 218 is the majority of 435. It's all math. Politics is nothing more than second grade arithmetic. This is just addition and subtraction. Okay, 435 members of the House, 218 is a majority. If you have a majority, you get to pick the speaker. You get Hakeem Jeffries instead of Mike Johnson, for example. Okay. You get to bring up every bill that you want. You get to pass every bill you want. There is no filibuster in the House. So we have 215. We need 218. We only need to pick up 3 more in 2026. But what Donald Trump in Texas did is they said, you know what? We don't like this direction that things are going, that people are not liking the big, beautiful bill or Donald Trump or Republicans. We're going to gerrymander Texas so that we get 5 additional Republican majority seats. So now, instead of us only needing to flip 3 Republican seats to take back control and have some checks and balances in the House, unless we pass Proposition 50 in California, we're going to have to get 8. So the original 3 plus 5 seats that the Texas legislature has just flipped on us. Okay. So there'll be 5 Democrats in Texas who will not be reelected because of what Texas did. If we pass Proposition, so a lot of you who are watching this are in California, right? We have almost 40 million people. If we pass Proposition 50, we are going to change our map so that we also can get 5 extra Democratic seats to balance out what they've done in Texas. So we would then only still need, unless other things happen, which they might, we will only need 3 additional seats. That's critically important. We also just need 4 flips of 20 Republican seats that are up in play in 2026 for us to take control of the Senate. If we take control of the Senate, we can stop the Supreme Court nominations, the federal court nominations, and cabinet appointments from Donald Trump for the second 2 years. And here's a fun fact. If we actually defeat all 20 Republicans who are running for re-election in 2026, you know what we can do, Betsy?
Tell me. Let's end on a positive note.
We can absolutely kick Donald Trump out of office. If the House flips and they impeach Donald Trump for one of a gazillion things that they can, right? Then it goes to the Senate. You need 67. We have 47. We can flip 20 seats. That would be 67. Is it going to happen? No, but it's a lovely fantasy because ultimately we are in control if we really mobilize and we educate people about what's going on in this country and how important it is to register and to vote, whether you care about the environment, you care about equal justice, you care about gun safety, you care about democracy, you care about healthcare, you care about anything. We can reverse spin on it. And as you know, the longer we wait for we reverse spin on these environmental issues and activate windmills and solar campaigns and all of that, the longer we wait, the more difficult it will be to literally save our planet for our children and grandchildren.
Save ourselves. 2 quick questions. One, how chilling is it that the National Guard is moving into so many cities as they change the name Department of Defense and Department of War? And that's going to cost a lot of money to change the stationery and everything else. And they're so concerned about government waste. I mean, if it was a movie, it would be funny, right? So, every bad thing, every bad hypocritical negative impact on everything that matters, they do every day. And it's only 8.5 months in. And that's what it's chilling, nothing short of that.
So I live in LA. I don't live very far from the federal building in Westwood. And I have to tell you emotionally what it did to me, because I grew up in LA, to see this place in the middle of my community with uniformed Marines with military weapons standing at every entrance to that building. And former General Mark Milley said that Donald Trump was fascist to the core. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We are now in a fascist country. This is exactly what fascists do. They say, oh, there's so much crime. We're under threat of all these horrible criminals and people coming into the country. And they use that disingenuously as a pretext to increase the militarization in the country. It is absolutely a violation of the Posse Comitatus Act. You've heard about that, and you're going to hear more about it. Federal judge just ruled that here in California. But I don't know if Donald Trump is going to pay attention to that. But I have to tell you one fun thing. So I hung out and took a bunch of pictures of the Marines. They were actually very chill and they were friendly. Thank God for that. And I then was speaking to someone who had been speaking to them and obviously knew them. And I said, "What's going on?" He goes, "You know what? They don't want to be here. They know it's wrong,
Not
but they
surprised.
have to. Otherwise, they will be court-martialed or kicked out." So the National Guard, most of them don't even want to be doing this.
Yeah,
But
that's
this one deranged man is changing everything in this country. And every day we allow him to get away with it is a problem. So what can we do? We can vote in California. We can stop his gerrymandering himself into another
cheating. They
majority
cheat,
talent and cheat.
openly cheat. And they say, there's an emergency with crime. There's an energy emergency. Energy crisis. Yeah, we got to stop. We got to get to renewable energy. And they'll do the opposite. Like I said, it'd be funny if it wasn't real. And it is so real. And I'm going to ask you one more question. It has nothing to do with politics or environment. How the heck did you get a meeting with Princess Diana since we just passed her 28th anniversary of her passing? You did a little, I thought you were kidding. And I looked again, who's writing this? Got to sit with Princess Di. You didn't know I was going to ask you that, but you got it.
No, but I know that you liked my Substack article on Princess Diana's, what I say, shocking beliefs in reincarnation and life after death. I met Princess Diana at her gym in London in 1996. We talked. I told her that I had done a story for the TV show Extra on her public speaking skills, because they sent me to New York to watch her give a speech, and that I told her she was really, really good. And she goes, "Oh, I'm so afraid of it. I don't like it at all." Anyway, so we had this lovely conversation. I sent her a letter and said I would be very happy to help you overcome your fear of public speaking. I'll be I was in Italy at the time. I'll be coming back through London to go back to Los Angeles on such and such date. And her office calls and says, "Mr. Greene, the princess would like to know if it isn't too much trouble for you to stop by and have lunch with her on such and such a day. And she would be so great. So she would be ever so grateful," or whatever it was. And it's like, I'm holding the phone. It's like, oh my God. And so, yeah, we had this amazing lunch and then we stayed in touch. And then I was invited to be at the funeral. But during our meeting, our
Sure,
lunch
you
meeting,
went, right, to the funeral? You were
yeah,
there?
I was sitting right next to Pavarotti. It was a surreal experience. The first question that I asked her when we sat down was, I said, "You are probably the most famous woman in the world, and you seem to have such passion about certain issues. What is it that you want to accomplish with your life?" And she looks at me, and she was more magical than people even can
Really?
think, being with her in her presence. Everybody has a different energy, and it's like, holy mackerel, this woman. She was also very shy and very uncomfortable in certain ways, but there was this power, right?
Mhm.
And immediately after I asked this question, she goes, "Yes, and I'm not coming back." She literally said exactly that. And so I'm thinking, I'm not coming back. I asked her what her purpose in life was, and she said she's not coming back. And so I'm thinking, I don't know her very well. Should I even broach this subject? And I said, "Excuse me, are you talking about reincarnation?" And she goes, "Yes, this will be my last lifetime."
Are you kidding me? And
I'm
that
not
was
kidding.
how much time then elapsed between that and when she was killed?
I had lunch with her in June of 96, and she died August 31st, 97.
Richard, you're even more fascinating and multifaceted and more of a Renaissance man than I even knew. And I thought I knew you well. So thank you. We'll have to have you back. Okay. There's so much to talk about as this goes forward. You've given me hope. I've learned some things. You've helped me with the math, so I don't have to do it. And
It's not
God
that hard.
bless you. Keep on keeping on. May you live as long as your mother, who was a ping pong champion at 90, what?
96.
90.
96. And by the way, I want to give it back to you, Betsy. I have never met anyone, and for those of you who don't know Betsy very well, who is for decades as
Okay.
motivated and energetic and tireless. And it's like, no one else is talking about it. I'm going to talk about it. No one else is doing it. I'm going to do it. And even at whatever age you are now, and I won't say that, it's like you have the same energy you had 20, 30 years ago when I first met you. You are a real treasure and a resource, and so glad we're on the same team. Thank you,
I am
Betsy.
I am so honored and thank you so much. And people say you're so committed, and I say only half kidding, and I may end up committed. Who would have thought this would take so long? And don't ever be first at anything. I started 97 Earth Day, trash talk, waste reduction, and went from garbage to global warming. But the more I knew and the more I keep learning, I can't stop. But there is zero, so I've said it before, but I'll say it again. If anyone's out there, zero bupkis support for environmental media, independent green media. And it's no investors want to invest in media. Philanthropists don't seem to get it. And what is it about these otherwise smart people who are trying to do good that don't realize if we don't bring the public along, we ain't going to win? All these initiatives, all the billions going into the public is pretty illiterate. I go around asking non-green friends, you happen to know who Bill McKibben is? Any idea how many parts per million of greenhouse? I do this in my life. Not to mention why you have that gas fireplace on in July when it's 95 degrees out in a fancy hotel. Ask my family. I embarrass them all the time. Everybody needs to speak up and be ambassadors. And this started when my daughter was 2, and I have a granddaughter who will be 2. And there's no way I can quit, even though I was tempted, and writing a book about how corporate media has totally dropped the ball on environmental news. And there's still less than 2% of all coverage is on climate.
But there still is social media. And I want to invite people to follow me on TikTok. I love TikTok at Civics Dean, Civics Dean, Richard Greene, the Civics Dean. I love that title. And there are some
maybe
great
for my big
people
birthday, you can teach me TikTok, because I have not ventured into that realm, thinking I was too old.
Yeah, you can go viral even if you have 0 followers. That's what's so cool about TikTok. We'll talk.
Okay. Well,
Love
we
you, Betsy.
love
Thank
you
you so
back.
much. Happy belated birthday.
Help me go end viral, and I'll help you go end viral, right? I like playing with words because we got to laugh anytime we can. I love your big smile and your enthusiasm, despite where we are, and that's why I'm so glad I had
Purpose, passion, contributing to others in the world keeps people young.
and community. Join what we're
And
doing.
yeah, of
It's
course.
the right side of history. If you have especially if you have a child or grandchild, you will instantly make friends. And I say this a lot, I'm repeating myself, but it's so true. And you will back me up. Every conference I've gone to, hundreds, the people who are working on these issues are the most passionate, excited, positive people out there. And all you have to do is join us, and that costs nothing. And just start with something, and you'll realize there's so much interesting things going on, so many solutions and so many solution areas, and you are right up there at the top.
One last thing. Honestly, on a spiritual level, I think we voluntarily incarnate into our current human form for 2 reasons. One is to experience things that allow our soul to evolve and grow. Good things, bad things, extraordinary things, things that can only be experienced through the limitations of a 5 sense physical body. But even more so, in my opinion, we choose to incarnate at the time that we do and in the form that we do to contribute what we uniquely can do to make other people's lives better, to help lift them up, and to save this incredible place called Earth, which is this extraordinary home that we are in danger of losing.
It's so true. And thank you for that, because it's a calling that once you learn a little bit, you will instantly become part of the solution, right? And these are interesting times, as much as it feels like things are going backwards, and as difficult it is to these daily onslaughts against sanity. And it is insanity what they're doing. My hope is that things are so bad that every day they're alienating another group, another subgroup, culture, race, you name it, profession, that people will, by the time we get to the midterms, they'll see the ugly underbelly. This is not what we voted for. And guess what? Grocery prices are not coming down. Either our gas prices and all that stuff was just a ruse to get control. But hopefully that will be clear to more Americans who, for whatever reason, were not tuned in, as educated. And that's why independent media needs to get out there, needs to be supported, so we can reach more Americans to do good.
The amazing environmental hero, Sylvia Earle, who I know you know,
just turned 90.
Just turned 90, and she still is going. She's like the Jane Goodall of the oceans, and we love Jane Goodall, says you can't care until you know.
I love that. And I've heard her speak, and she is one of the most eloquent speakers ever that I've heard live several times. And I take notes because every word is valuable. And I hadn't heard those words.
Sometimes elders have wisdom that cannot be replicated.
And that's why you put your adorable mother on TikTok a lot. And she goes viral. She goes viral.
She goes viral way more than I do. Thank you, Betsy. I know you have to go.
Thank you,
Thank
Richard. And please subscribe, everybody. Betsy Rosenberg interviews. We need to get more subscribers. It won't cost you anything. No spam, I promise. And go to betsyrosenberg.com to get the email about who I'm interviewing, people like Richard, and there's only more in the pipeline, and to get the YouTube notification when we post a new interview. And tell everybody you know, because I can't keep paying for it myself until we get about 1,000 subscribers. I can't go ask one of the many, many, many green companies, way more than when I started, to support us, because I can only do so much, almost 30 years. And we're doing it for you, everybody out there who eats, breathes, or drinks. That's all. Thanks, Richard.